Hello everyone. Today I want to begin a talk right from the pilot's chair. And this talk is going to be a mystic's guide. And the title is Walking in Unknown Fields. So today Mr. Within is going to guide you and guide the idea of man and try to enlighten the idea of man, not anyone, but just the idea of the human being, and seeing how much it can move into its being aspects and understand its unknown relationships. Because in life we have a lot of known relationships, like there's a lot of our confusion is coming from relationships we have with others, but we're not recognizing that some of our confusion is coming because existentially we don't know some things. So sometimes when you ask deep questions, you hit the ceiling of your illusion. Now, we want to simply see that there needs to be a huge emphasis on you observing the ideas you currently have. So you begin to you begin to observe your ideas, and as you do, you begin to see what's new about it. Immediately when you think about the new, you have touched the present moment. So you need to recognize that we want in our deep self-contemplation, which is recommended to be done in nature and in stillness and silence and solitude, you will begin observing a lot of your things which are not based. It's like your thinking suddenly gets rid of all those layers which were based on what others around you made you think because of their presence. When you spend time with yourself, you begin to see through yourself, and that is better ability. That's a great ability. That means seeing through yourself before others see through yourself. And so what that means is I've noticed that even for me, I went to a point where I thought that I was a certain somebody. And this certain somebody had a certain ability because I told it so. And so I arrogantly tried to create that reality without realizing that there's flows in life. You can't just go and do some nonsense and not see turbulence. What that means is before you act, we must be aware of action, and this is where our search begins, our existential search, our search for where our existence is. And I use the concept of a pilot because the pilot can navigate any plane of reality. So anything we conceive, we perceive, we can handle it because we existentially know ourselves. What that means is when we begin to acknowledge our subtler planes and begin acknowledging a man as a multidimensional being, because that is much more of a proper framework for exploration than just saying we're in one empty, we're just in emptiness. It's like emptiness was the same thing the yogis and the mystics were saying. If we're saying the same thing, if we're not adding to that depth of observance in any way, we are failing in our ability to do so. You must see that some purposes stem out of nonsense, stem out of a lot of ordered views begin from chaos, as if there was a first chaotic nature and then suddenly something organized it. When we realize that any theory we come up with is just man playing with his ideas, we begin seeing that we really don't know because we really don't know about the practice, which is our sensory perception, which has been what many have searched. Existential seekers, people who they were not looking for answers by anyone else. They were looking for answers from their own greater experience. So where does man go where man does not see himself anymore? You will see that before we begin any journey, and before Mr. Within can begin really explaining the dynamics of the plane we're in, we need to see that man is both a being that has many different, let's say, vertical states of being, and has, for each state of being, its horizontal respective reality. So what that means is that normally, in your normal day is one state of being, and you suddenly sitting down and getting rid of all the noise is taking you into a different state of being because you're becoming aware of your being through a different environment. As the environment shifts, so does your awareness see itself constantly in its infinity. It's as if every blink which you feel that world is going away, you're seeing infinity. So you're always reminded of it. Now, what we can do is see that all reality can be playfully said to be the question of what is self and what is other. So what is the sense of distance? What is the sense of other let's say, personality, other being? Why is there distance in this reality? Why is there individuality? When these concepts come into your mind, you begin seeing that as you ask them and you confront them, you are not changing. It's not like you're getting answers to reality. You're breaking your own conditioning by the depth of your search, by your excitement to know what is going on and what is, which is then going on. Do you see that? So some searches you move for, some searches you should not move for. You should just be still and observe. What that means is that a technique which they do not share to people who are doing presentations is they do not explain what is happening. For example, the instructor does not say that when you go on stage, it does not explain how that speech is. And that's why some things are left to the realm of experience, because man has not studied it. But when you study it, you begin seeing that the experience is there to teach you and enlighten your idea. The ego is not just floating around. The ego is here for your creation, for your use. So it is not an illusion. The illusion was made for a purpose. The illusion was kept present unelusively. So what that means is you will see that on some level you have lied to yourself based on all the different senses of individuation you thought you were in this unified world, And at the same time you will begin to see that you have on some level also forgiven yourself. Because that forgiving God conceptually meant that you were always there. That is why you could be saved. We must examine heaven and realize that it is just here to enhance our ideology. Heaven is not here to give you a destination, because man's destination cannot be found, because man is an unknown factor. And since man is an unknown factor, are we using the technologies of languages and theories and stuff in working with our whole reality? Or should our language and theories and sciences and different branches of knowledge be exactly like how they are just the branches of a tree? And similar to how each person is a leaf, let us say, on these branches, you will begin seeing that you are present, you have your own world, your own unique design, but simultaneously you exist with other unique designs in which are all moving towards the roots of existence. So self-discovery takes you to the roots of what you are as not an object of experience, as the experiencer. The mystic is seeking himself in the sense that there is no him that could be deceived. It's like you do not let deception even move, because you're running into your direct experience that instantly. And so you must realize this reality, you choose the ideas that you carry. And sometimes experiences give you scars, not on your shoulders, but also on your thought, on your idea of you, on your ability. And the ability must not be scarred. Your thought, your imagination is a very vast, abstract, creative process in your present moment of experience. It is not something that should define you. You are choosing to get meaning. But as you observe the nature of thought, in other words, you're not looking at thought. Thought comes and tells you thought is this, you go look at it in the dictionary definition, you become satisfied. But no. The mystic wants to see what is the nature of thought. He's interested also in his experience, and that's why he trusts the search. I have found that the scientific mind at times just gets rid of any possibility of another search. It does not, it's as if it's kind of like a very heresy type move in thought. Whereas if science is saying it has to be like this. But then you say, oh my God, it's not just science, it's any story ever told. So it is the nature of how man is playing with illusion that is giving us the flaws that we cannot figure out why we're flawed. You might go on that, you might be walking past a bridge, right? And a bridge can mean for you an ending, or it can mean for you a beginning. Some people live their whole life to find new bridges into understanding. But others who have that accumulation do not put themselves on the right scale and devalue yourself. You cannot talk about yourself being stressed. or depressed, because that is nonsense. Because you are a self-aware being. You're the most advanced being on this plane. Forget socialization, that's its own game. Realize who you are and bring a contribution that will be your greatest life's work. And that's it. That's all that is needed for each human being to go into their state of greater harmony and reception and make their whole living the greatest contribution known to man. So what that means is, let's say after Martin Luther King's speech, he realized every moment should be like that. That intense, that true, that honest and authentic in experience. Because honesty for an idea may seem very little, but for an experiencer may seem to be infinite. An honest man is also a being with some clarity. And this has been known. Because the Buddha recognized as a human being trying all these other paths, that at the end of it, he just got tired of it. He was like, all right, I need to see what's up. And he just sat down by a tree and he dived into where his experience was coming from. He realized every reason for him still not getting out of his illusion, not getting out of his problem, was his choice of being there. Because he did not want to go the extra step into a deeper gaze. We need to have new renaissances happen. These new renaissances need to be from more advanced human communication. What that means is hate, racism, sexism, all these language-based insults to other things is a realm of distraction. Man must clear it up. It is not that we're just here, survival has gone to the thought level. We must cleanse our thought. We must become aware of the efficiency in the quality of our communication, and leaders must become existential leaders. You see how the peak of that mountain naturally developed like that? You will see in mankind and its awareness to nature, the leaders will be born just like that. And they are not separate. They are the mountain. Everything is the mountain. Leadership must begin with an existential knowing that the leader has the experience of all. And that is why you saw in India, in ancient India, the mystics and the yogis, and in many of these cultures where meditation comes from, you begin seeing that they had profound lineages. They understood the value of living transcendentally, and so they observed and examined these beings. We are ignoring the greatness that is present in this world. Man must put aside his troubles. It is now time to see that thought does not need to be a barrier. What that means is two human beings must have an ability, regardless of race, regardless of the presence of other countries, and to sit and look in one room, that who they are looking at is just as equal as who they see in the mirror in the morning. And then realize that there is never a reason for any sanction, any detachment. How long do we want to have fighting that is stupid? It is just irrelevant. And when we have fighting that is wasting human experience by not allowing it to thrive, when we can feed the world a couple times with our wasted food, and we're not doing that, it's like something is wrong, but it is not an individual wrong. It is just that we are not each playing our part in naturally aligning ourselves and being as natural in our ambition as how the wind blows, formlessly, without wanting to leave something behind, but contributing and changing this canvas of physical existence. You are not a citizen of your country per se. There was a man a long time ago, his name was Diogenes. And so one day some person comes and asks Diogenes, this great philosopher, Greek philosopher, I believe, and they tell him, where are you from, man? Where are you from, old guy? And Diogenes, goes to a point where he just looks at the guy, and the guy's looking at this man, and Diogenes is a very realized being. And Diogenes says, I am a citizen of the cosmopolites. Do you know? And I totally understood this being was so existentially aware that he was teaching, that philosophy was the way he lived. And so what that really means is that you are not a citizen of the idea which you're thinking as a thought that you're in a nation. You are more than the relationship with one abstract thought, because you could be a relationship with another abstract thought. We're just calling certain abstract thoughts normal because they're relevant to the physical plane. But there's a lot of abstract thought leading into unknown potentials. And so walking in these unknown fields is really to realize the absolute in your reality, no one else's. The search is belonging to you. Life is not wasted. Just enhance your gaze, be deep, and try to understand what clarity means for you. It's a general thing. It's not specific. The truths are not specific, so you don't have to go crazy fighting about it. Just be aware of the nature of your being. One of Mr.Within's inspirations in regards to human attitude. So a certain type of being that I looked at in regard of how that being was living their life really inspired me to see some things differently. So there are certain people who are called yogis and mystics. And simply said, these beings wanted to know the absolute nature of reality. And so in their search, reached peaks where if you looked at them, they'd be like, it's like they wouldn't show you that they had found eternity or they were in heaven. They would just show you a sense of natural freedom, existential freedom. As if they had realized something about this nature of being that was more golden than the golden ratio. Visualize yourself sitting on a rock. Your eyes are closed. You're in absolute peaceful nature, silence of nature. And as you're there, visualize that you're breathing, and your breathing has just aligned with the sound of ocean waves. Now, when you search, you can search dependent and based on something, or you can search based on nothing, based on no thing. The mystic is the one who is searching based on no thing, and at first there's a ratio, but his realization is moved beyond that reality. It's as if to be aware of another dimension, suddenly it is not a simple task. And so to know your multidimensional nature is simply how much you trust your emptiness before many words and ideas and shapes and names are put in it. It's an existential knowing. It's transcendent. And transcendental meditation is not a fantasy, it's a reality. It's something that the human being can do because the human being is not an object, regardless of how much they say it is objective. One aspect of its experience is objective, but its realization and observance of the physical is not. So you look at me, you might see someone. But you look at yourself, you're subtly dissolved into the realm of awe, a realm of thought. Subjective thought. So, walking into unknown fields is really noticing that as you are meditating in that rock, you are giving yourself a moment of full awareness, and you're not distracting yourself with time and space being segmented and your story. You have enough awareness that your character wants to move beyond the story it's in, so it needs to become aware of self. And in doing so, you will begin to see that you will have no ideas. Your questions will be empty, and that is one revelation that came to me as I began meditating in such a manner. I realized my questions were based on something I was constantly spinning the wheel of. But once I stopped, it was not me. So as I became aware in this subtlety, I realized man, funny enough, through his science, has really brought an awareness to how we can organize abstraction. So what I'm now, Mr. Within, is suggesting for the Western world is that we define systems and we suggest these systems as linear, but basking in non-linearity, so designed in the way that a tree's branches are open. So what that means is we must begin developing knowledge that is integrative. Branches of knowledge need to be translated into integrative, and this is the task for the academic world to achieve. To connect itself to its transcendent awareness and re-revolutionize itself by realizing that life is not empty, but that life is within life. Abstraction will come to you. It can be simple revelations such as you're walking in the park and your extrasensory perception is your ability to visualize very vividly and clearly and allow that visualization to naturally fall on its own something, whatever. It could be an object, you could be designing something, it could be a virtual Rubik's Cube, it could be whatever. You could visualize anything. It could be a reality, it could be a world, it could be a simulation. Just because you're being aware of your thought does not mean that you do not know, you know? Because let me rephrase that. It's like in your playfulness with thought, you realize that playfulness is allowed to continue to eternity. That's it. Your approach to life is very important, because if you think you suddenly have to do something to change your life, you will not be able, because your constant need to have to change something, to go have to do something, to go do something, that stress and strain of thought will suddenly begin to seem to be a bit blinding. There's no need for that kind of pressure. Align yourself with your natural, authentic knowing, and whatever that means to you. My communications here are self-reflective in the sense that I'm saying that what you need to do for you to in this life is not go get self-help books or to go read some philosophy you don't know yet. What you need to do is be very aware of your life to see what is the meaning of my reason. Where does my reasoning come from? What is the design of man? And what is this nature of mind? Am I a body with a mind, you know, or am I a mind which is projecting an experience of a body, you know? Is physicality something that in my subtler states of awareness it is non-existent, but there's greater intelligences at work, and so creativity is, it seems as if our collectives are playing through us, you know? As in there are many different collectives which are inspired through individuation to be part of the same design. Simply put, the son realizes that he is the father, and the father realizes that he's the son. And so that relationship of two beings going to the park, the father taking the son, was never just the only for the father and the son. It was the full total experience for that moment of being. And that being who was aware of the moment was the full experience. And so your certainty and your trust in life is what will guide you. If you do not trust the life that you are, nothing will happen. You will just crumble into a reality where again you can rebuild that trust. That's what's been happening, you know. You can realize right now you can press pause on everything that you think you are and the story you think you're a character in, you know, and just go and sit in a corner and just not do anything with that, but just sit and in complete silence visualize yourself as if without those, as if what you would be without all this shenanigans that is maybe troubling you. Clarity and knowing will bring you the right action. So instead of just going to see what you need to do to get things done, take yourself to a depth of knowing that knows and it will be done. The ability is within you. And when you find Mr. Within, you have found all selves. To the one self that was observed through nothing. And your remembrance is eternal. I hope this talk has served you. It kind of went a different direction, but I talk about the concept of pilots of consciousness, advanced communicators, something I've just brought the idea of. Because we need to begin studying man's communication in more advanced ways. And guess what? All those kids who think that they're just experience hunters can contribute. What that means is all those people seeking to have a better time and a greater experience, they can contribute their communications and we can create advanced systems of communication. Because I know that the next advanced systems of communication are beyond the system that is suggesting the advanced. So what that means is the next introduction of our advanced communication is so advanced that our advanced view cannot capture it because its foundations are flawed. So we may begin organizing our systems chaotically, who knows? But that development may take a while because man's eye needs to coordinate with where its vision is. And guys, let me tell you, people can say a lot of stuff, but regardless of what they say, you always know yourself. You cannot not know yourself. You know your existence. You just need to observe it and consciously take your search to one where you can experientially bring that ability here. So do not trap yourself in the order and wonder about the chaos, and do not trap yourself in the chaos and wonder about the order, but realize that the mind of the greatness that is within this existence is beyond both and is the observance of all. In other words, once the concept of God came, that cleared it up. That cleared up thought. The sense that all thought and everything is from this one symbol. So it was meditation. I think all ancient books are meditation because what is reading? Reading is meditation. You're focusing on a word to see what it means and your mind is integrating into seeing reality omnisciently. We are able, and it is our existential allowance which comes from our trust in life, that we shall become the emanation of our spark. I am communicating to you as consciousness because consciousness is where it is all received. And to know thyself simply meant, my beloved being, just be. Much blessings and namaste.